All right, let's go. Final episode of Series 7. Finally. Now, when was the last time I reviewed Matt Smith? Oh, wow. Was it really over a year ago? I originally planned to review this and all other unreviewed Christmas specials in December last year. I wonder what happened. Oh. So what's up with this episode? It's pretty beloved by fans, and I feel sorry for you if you happen to be one of those people, because I may just ruin this episode for you. The 50th anniversary special was what stole everyone's gaze at the time, and in fairness, it really needed to. It's no surprise then that with the 50th anniversary and Sherlock looming on the horizon, Moffat would downscale the quality of Doctor Who to compensate. Hence why I believe this episode to be a bit of a blunder when considered in isolation. Worse still, I believe there are bigger ramifications for Series 8 and onwards for this show that occur as a result. This is why it is important to take the 50th anniversary into consideration before watching this review. You can watch my mega review of The Day of the Doctor that I made last year by leaving a $5 at the door on my Patreon page. As mentioned, it's taken 1 year too many to make this video, and one of the biggest reasons for that is procrastination. I can meet deadlines and do the bare minimum when it comes to workload, but I always leave it to the last minute and end up rushing the creative process. I am looking to swat away the mind wandering with productivity classes on Skillshare. I went with Jules Acree's class on Google Calendar organization to see if I could, sort my bloody life out. And would you look at that, my calendar for the week no longer looks like complete ass. Skillshare is an online learning platform with thousands of lessons and plans for creative and curious people. Whether you're into filmmaking, music, or web design, Skillshare has something for you. They've added 3 new class topics: creative careers, creative inspiration, and a whole section on AI if you're into that sort of thing. Signing up to Skillshare through regular means only gets you a 7-day free trial. You absolutely positively gotta click my link in the description for a month free trial of Skillshare Premium. You not only get enough time to progress through a learning path to acquire new skills, but you also help my channel out financially without spending a single penny. The first 500 people to click my link in the description will get a month free trial of Skillshare Premium membership. Now, without further ado, let's get on with the review. The Time of the Doctor begins with a premise that is as ambitious as it is ridiculous. An untranslatable message from Trenzalore was sent out across the universe, and all of the Doctor's worst enemies mobilize and unanimously decide to go check it out. Naturally, the easiest ones to pull out of the costume cupboard are the Daleks and Cybermen, so those two are essentially the main opponents of the Doctor in this story. The Doctor happens to have the eye stalk and helmet of both respectively, arriving at both ships to take off his hood not once but twice and be shot at and put straight into retreat. Meanwhile, the equally stressful situation of cooking Christmas dinner is shown on the other end of a telephone by Clara. From a producer's perspective, it was smart to widen the net of captivating audiences who will be able to relate to this episode. You basically have the flashy sci-fi elements for the kids, with the hell that is cooking Christmas dinner for the parents. As much as it might have been a clever ploy to boost ratings, I find that it makes the episode more divisive than anything else, largely because not enough focus was put on Clara's family in prior episodes to bridge the gap between fans of the Smith era and disenfranchised RTD fans. We spend a small portion of this episode's opening in Clara's flat, introducing her crazy, drug-addled boyfriend to her family, with the cringy family in Series 7B now effectively being replaced by Gran, her father, and his wife, I guess. The dad that got a leaf thrown in his face. I honestly don't find these segments to be particularly funny. Ironically, it's not even the nudity that really stinks. I did really appreciate this.
Doctor, why are you naked?
Because I'm going to church.
Having payoff later.
Swallow this.
What is that?
Your hologram projector. You can't go to church with your clothes on.
But unfortunately, the Doctor playing dumb in front of humans when he's spent a considerable amount of time with them does seem a little inconsistent. I grant that he's a different person with each incarnation, but if he likes Clara so damn much, why does he willfully embarrass her like this? The Doctor's priorities bouncing up the walls also seems to match up with Clara's, who went from insisting the Doctor put some clothes on to expressing her anxieties about cooking a turkey properly.
Don't think it's done yet.
I think a decent vet would give it an even chance.
Okay, well, use an app. On your screwdriver, app it.
Ugh.
You can't keep using the TARDIS like this.
Like what?
Miss birthdays, restaurant bookings, and please just learn how to use iPlayer.
Wow, 2 horribly aged jokes in the space of 30 seconds. The turkey becomes a MacGuffin when it is stored in the TARDIS to cook, and just ends up feeding a family of 4. Seriously? No payoff for having a turkey be cooked inside the TARDIS engines? Anyway, Clara goes with the Doctor to distract herself from her domestic nightmare for a bit. The people who shielded Trenzalore are the Church of the Papal Mainframe. Moffat continues to flex his attraction towards powerful, kinky women as we are introduced to Tasha Lem, leading to a completely pointless and baffling sequence of events. Tasha initially serves to temporarily remove the Doctor's ability to summon the TARDIS with his key. The inclusion of both the Silence and the Weeping Angels were only to dangle member berries in front of the audience's eyes. Not only do the rules of both life forms have to be spoken aloud by characters multiple times,
I saw you and then I forgot you. How does that work?
I keep looking at them, at all of them. Quantum not life form. It can only move if it's unobserved.
What are those things?
Professional priests, genetically engineered so you forget everything you told them.
but both instances don't serve a purpose aside from a quick bit of tension that is over faster than you can say Quidditch. The Weeping Angels segment is particularly egregious, mainly because of how cheap it looks. Not only do the editors cut between the pair and Angels fairly regularly in an attempt to hide how tiny this set is, but CGI Angels superimposed into these shots, like, it just looks bad. The Doc gets himself and Clara out of this fix because he had hidden a TARDIS key in a wig of his hair. This was probably an in-joke on the production end. Matt Smith was previously working on a project that required him to have a buzz cut, and so had to wear a wig for his time as the Doctor in this episode. He wasn't the only cast member wearing a wig either. Anyway, the key summons the TARDIS to save them, and then he lands the TARDIS on the planet, bypassing the shield the Papal Mainframe set up.
So, why haven't you just gone down there, had a look?
It's shielded, even the TARDIS can't break through it.
The Doctor could have gone down there the entire time. The Doctor and Clara then go to church, where they find the famous crack in the wall from Series 5. Once again, the episode felt the need to give Clara some catch-up, not only for that series, but also something from the 5 Doctors back in the 80s. Basically, the Time Lords were tired of being stuck in another universe for one entire episode and want back in. The message beaming across the universe gets translated, and we're back to the name of the Doctor still being a lingering issue.
Warning, translation will be available to all life forms in range. Translation follows. Doctor Who. Doctor Who. Doctor Who. Doctor Who. Doctor Who. Doctor Who.
What was wrong with the initial translation line delivery?
Doctor Who.
Like, this was all that was needed. Why did it have to be hoarsely delivered on repeat for all the enemies to hear? Meanwhile, we find out that the Papal Mainframe had dedicated themselves to keeping the Doctor silent. That means protecting him at all costs, and that was apparently their whole goal this entire time. So, what did they actually do to protect him from those that would seek to capture him and have him say his name? They blow up a couple of Sontarans. Some of the Silence are shown fighting alongside the Doctor later, and that's basically it.
In the time that followed, the Papal Mainframe strove to maintain the peace between the Doctor and his enemies.
For 300 years, the Doctor started growing wrinkles and defended the town against everything from Weeping Angels to invisible Sontarans to a wooden Cyberman that shoots fire. I hope I don't need to explain to you why this is the stupidest thing ever. Anyway, before all that, the Doctor sends Clara back in time. On the first return, Clara and the semi-aged Doctor have a little spat and then forgive each other fairly quickly because the pace of this series has continually outweighed the need for decent characters. I guess the only real interesting element of time going by so quickly in this episode was seeing a Time Lord age. Despite the makeup not being particularly convincing, Smith did enough acting-wise to keep me absorbed in the idea. Even the moment with the Doctor outliving Handles was really nice. It's just everything else that just simply makes zero sense to me. Now this little town called Christmas, it's got nothing going on. No people with jobs, no leader, nothing. Just NPCs that react in like the most predictable ways to everything that happens. It sounds like my hometown. I think there's like one named child that gets involved who's called Barnaby Bear or something. He's literally the only named character in the whole town. We learn from Tasha that this is a human settlement, so obviously they're not quite as primitive as 21st century Earth, yet they are still human all the same. So despite a stranger coming to town with a great big face appearing in the sky, for 300 years, nobody thought to even attempt handing the Doctor over to the destructive monsters in the sky to stop their peaceful town from being perpetually terrorized. They simply don't seem to have any say in what is going on here. Is there literally just one town on this sodding planet? The town does nothing except celebrate victory and raise the alarm.
Another one. Another one. Another one. Another one. And another one.
And then there's the church. This lot are so bloody forgettable. And now they're just good? Like, how did generations of people dedicated to the church maintain and keep the peace above the planet? Only for 299 years and 362 days did the Daleks seemingly put off attacking the church.
The Daleks send for reinforcements daily. They are massing for war. 3 days ago, they attacked the mainframe itself.
And Tasha doesn't age because
She hasn't aged much.
No, she's against aging.
she's against it. The church do have a lot of power up their sleeves. It's just never really shown. Also, in 300 years, the Doctor's enemies just stuck around above the planet? Have they genuinely not got anything better to do? Worse still, in that entire time, nobody else came to the Doctor's aid, despite the entire universe being contacted. When you consider that another giant time jump happens later in the episode, where once again nothing changes except the Doctor's appearance, all these things are worsened as a result. Honestly, they couldn't even get this reveal that the Daleks had infiltrated them right, because Tasha just vanishes from her chair once they enter the room. There obviously wasn't any threat to Clara being killed right here, and the low effort killing of these three Daleks, man. They just get set on fire. Why? All that malarkey kind of spoils what could have been a really touching moment between the Doctor and Clara. Counting up the regenerations allows the audience to be reminded that this could actually be the end of the Doctor. Unless you lived under a rock, of course. What if instead we imagine how differently this moment could have been had we seen this all from Clara's perspective? Instead of this sappy montage of what a great job the Doctor did to protect this town that nobody cares about, we could have experienced something truly heart-wrenching. 300 years have gone by for the Doctor, and Clara doesn't get upset by that prospect at all. All she can think about is a fucking turkey. Okay, so the church gets infiltrated, and so the truth filter gets destroyed as well. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that people have to tell the truth on this planet. Again, another great concept that just has zero utility in this episode except for a few jokes. All the truth filter disappearing really means is that the Doctor can lie to Clara and leave her back in England once again, this time with a cooked turkey in her arms. It was a nice moment, largely because it was one of those rare moments in this episode that wasn't entirely spelled out for us, letting it unfold naturally. Even the little moment of the Doctor wondering why the TARDIS would return to him was nice.
If you're not leaving, why did you bring it back?
It's a reminder.
Though why it had to be from this little annoying Barnaby kid. What is it with Moffat and fucking kids, man? We are then treated to another visually interesting but logically baffling montage where the Doctor and the Church fight off Cybermen and Daleks. I just don't understand how the Church was genuinely mind-fucked by the Daleks and then somehow they aren't. Like, somehow Tasha was able to put the Dalek back in her brain and that also allows the others to just do the same. We cut back to Clara's NPC family, showcasing a recycling of a segment found in the Parting of the Ways episode without any of the heart. The only thing I can really say is that Clara doesn't like her dad's girlfriend / wife / who actually gives a shit, and that Clara can relate to her nan. None of these family members were interesting enough for Moffat to warrant their return in series 8 or 9, so what purpose did they serve, aside from killing a few minutes of screen time?
Everybody just stay put.
They've not moved from their seats this entire episode, you absolute banana. The TARDIS then reappears outside the apartment, which only Clara can hear for some reason.
You can fly the TARDIS.
Flying TARDIS was always easy. It was flying the Doctor I never quite mastered.
This character they've introduced this episode is capable of flying the TARDIS? Was Alex Kingston simply unavailable for the filming of this episode, so they had to quickly change the script to introduce a crappy River Song substitute? Tasha takes Clara to the Doctor in his final dying moments. I suppose there might be something to be said about the uniqueness of this scenario, wherein a companion is seemingly outliving the Doctor, but the performances and the lack of characterization for Clara just makes this farewell feel rather lackluster.
I'm impossible, girl. Thank you. Goodbye.
Like, that's pretty much it, isn't it? Like, you were nice. Thank you. Clara is just NPC companion.
Listen to me, you lot. Listen. Help him. Help him change the future. Do it. Do something.
With Tasha having such significant off-screen experience with the Doctor, it makes me wonder why, after hundreds of years, she didn't do what Clara did. If anything, I think River being the companion for this episode would have made much more sense, seeing as she actually knows the Doctor's fucking name.
You've been getting it wrong.
His name is the Doctor. Or the name he needs. Everything you need to know about him.
Denouncing how unimportant the real name is and emphasizing how important the Doctor, those two words, is for the universe would be so much more in line with her character than any other companion. In the midst of the Daleks shooting rooftops and people's feet, the Doctor gets his Deus Ex Machina and is granted infinite regenerations. Then why, in all that is holy, did you not blast him to oblivion already? They had hundreds of years to do it, and you mean to tell me that only the Church and these fucking peasants have been holding you lot back? You have got to be kidding me. Despite the most explosive regeneration knocking Daleks out of the sky, very cool by the way, the biggest distraction from this was the remaining peasants surviving countless generations by just standing around like lemons with their bloody pitchforks. Would it not have made for a more emotional gut punch if Clara had arrived and the last stand of humanity was already over? Their bodies littered about the place. Yeah, I know it's probably a bit morbid, but anything is better than barely any change for such a significant amount of time. Obviously, Moffat had a hard task jumping over the great hurdle that is breaking the golden sacred regeneration rule. Solving a mystery that had been hanging in the background for 3 series with the same hand was definitely the right move. If you're a showrunner that keeps hundreds of people employed, of course you would desire to keep the show running forever. I mean, it also means you get to be employed forever, but you know. On paper, this is a wonderful idea, but 10 years down the line and the results of this decision have been pretty catastrophic for the show's reputation.
Never, ever tell me the rules!
This moment, where not the Doctor, but the producers of the show effectively proclaim that it doesn't need rules anymore, is where I firmly believe it went into decline. The reason I was firmly faithful to Capaldi's series and why I decided to take content creation more seriously 10 years ago was because I thought the decision would bring about a new era of creative possibilities for the show. This is why I'm so excited to go back and make my Redux reviews of series 8, 9, and 10. I hadn't an inkling of how bad the show would become at that time, so maybe I will see those series in a new light. Or maybe they will be as mid as I remember them. It was a tad bit annoying that they couldn't let Smith go in the midst of the explosion. The setup of that shot on the shoes was downright perfect for a reveal of the new face in the old clothes. But no, he had to have a dragged out tearjerker moment before he sneezed into Peter Capaldi. A tearjerker moment that is so riddled with nostalgia. Raggedy Man Goodnight? Get out of here, man. So, did it suck? Well, that's pretty much everything I gotta say about why I'm not a big fan of this episode. I think the 3 pillars of perplexity for me are, like, the sequences in Clara's apartment, they suck. The town called Christmas sucks. And the biggest, baddest, suckiest pillar of all, the Church of the Papal Mainframe. Like, what a waste. These 3 aspects are glossed over, annoying, and have very little payoff or development or intrigue or anything. Clara being the companion for this episode was also a huge mistake. The amount of time that goes by, like, there's limitless potential in the ideas there, and it just gets completely unexplored. The whole thing is just held together by sellotape and Pritt stick. It was nice to have some resolutions for the era, and there were some interesting ideas, some great visuals, and a whacking great regeneration, but sadly it all pales in comparison to everything else that weighs heavy on this episode. I give Time of the Doctor a 3 out of 10.